regular council meeting of May 19th, 2014 to order at 7:05. Everyone please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, call roll, please.
Sturritt.
Here.
Clark. Conan.
Here.
Wallach.
Here.
Baylor. Cooper.
Here.
Audie.
Here.
Everyone has the agenda in front of them tonight. Is there anything anyone would like to add, delete?
We're going to add
Make motions.
to award a bid for engineering services and approve a participation agreement for the East Main Street project.
Under new business?
Yep, it's gonna be 3G. Award bid, you're gonna have to give me a copy.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, you have it. That's in the stuff that I left for you.
I don't have one.
There. That might be
Thank you.
yours.
Okay.
All right, is there anything else anyone would like to add, delete, or is there a motion at this time? Motion?
Lyle and Steve are
I
here,
know.
so
I'll move that we approve the agenda as
amended.
amended, yes.
Motion by Mr. Conan, is there a second?
Yes.
Second by Mr. Wolock. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Before we get into citizen comment, we did get a written complaint from someone. Mr. Audie, did you want to say anything in regards to that written complaint that I forwarded you?
No.
Okay. With that being said, I'd like to just give a brief little synopsis. At the May 12th regular meeting, Trustee Audie made statements regarding an individual from Weekend Warrior LLC, the organizer of the local Weekend Warrior Marathon. These statements concerned the individual's professional reputation, integrity, and character in an employment field totally unrelated to the race activities. Not only were these statements irrelevant to the discussion, the individual has sent a communication to the village demanding a public retraction by Trustee Audie because the statements are not true. It is unfortunate that Trustee Audie has declined to retract his statements about this individual, but there should be no mistake that these statements are Trustee Audie's alone and are not representative of or attributable to the village or any other members of this council. Thank you.
Can I have a copy of that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any citizen comments? Any citizen comments? Hearing none. We have no presentations tonight. We are now under administrative reports. We do not have an F&B, is that correct?
Yeah, I just realized that Chuck is on vacation. I assume Brian just didn't do it,
Okay.
because Chuck's the one that normally would prepare it.
Okay.
I will get back to you on that.
Everyone has a treasurer's report. Are there any liaison reports at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Everyone has the approval of the regular council meeting minutes of May 12, 2014, and payment of bills. Is there anything anyone would like to pull, or is there a motion at this time? Is there a motion?
Madam President, I will move to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Mr. Audie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Conan. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. We have no old business tonight. We are now under new business. First thing on our agenda is the H2O sprinkler maintenance. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none, Clerk Polis, this is your agenda item.
We received a reminder postcard from H2O. It's that time of year. We have used them in the past to get the sprinklers ready for use. The reason that we've used them is because if there's anything that needs to be replaced, repaired, fixed, they have the parts with them. So Ed suggested, Ed agrees that we should just have them do it. Last year it was $70, I think it was like closer to $80 to do that because there was something that had to be fixed. She told me the cost should be $75.
I mean, you don't have a problem with your faucets your outside faucets at home. Why would these be where we have to hire a special company to do this?
Well, because if there is an issue, they can fix it. They would have the parts available and do it.
And these are things that have been sitting outside in the winter all year.
Shouldn't we see if they work before we hire someone to fix it? I mean, what
That's-
if
that's up to
they
you.
work? What do they do if it works? I mean, if they turn the faucet on and it goes, what do they do?
I
mean,
think they blow out the lines though too. I think they clean everything out before they turn them on.
I've done sprinklers, I used to work for a sprinkler company, and it's
Well, there
very
you
easy
go.
to return the system on.
How much do you cost? No.
Not charging anything. But it is, but, I mean, the companies do go around and turn them on. Now, I think they overcharge. If there's no problems, yeah.
Well, if you prefer, we can just ask the DPW to try it. I mean,
That's
if
what
there's,
I'd
if there's
like
a
to try
problem
it.
though, they will have to fix
Well,
it.
of course, if there's a problem that they can't handle, we'll have someone do it. I can see that.
I tend to agree.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
I'm sorry, I personally wouldn't turn them on. That's a little bit off the subject, but it's all part of the sprinklers. If you turn them on, then that didn't get brought to us, so I'm just saying.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on. Next agenda item are picnic tables. Any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none. Park Commissioner Audi, this is your agenda item.
Bring this back, we talked about it last week. You wanted to find out what new picnic tables cost. Becky was really helpful. She found the original check we cut to the high school. The high school charges around $100 a picnic table to build them, but they can't do any probably until October. School's out for the year. And we have had some durability issues with them, or people have been hard on them. They just wear out. So this is our other option. I called this U-Line company and told them we had a problem with vandalism and just the picnic tables are breaking down. These are powder coated, so you really can't deface them with marker. It'll all wash off. They don't get sticky or food trapped in them. The rain washes them right off, and because they're graded, you really can't use skateboard wheels on them or a rollerblades, so they're impractical to move and use for skateboarding activities. And they weigh like, I don't know, 300 pounds each.
Oh.
So they're hard for one individual to move as well. But they run about $700.
How many were you looking at getting?
Well, we have 4 there now, and when we have activities out there, all 4 get used pretty heavily. I mean, we could even start with 2, but I just wanted to give you the options. Our other option would be asking DPW or a local group to refinish them. Sand the picnic tables, paint them, and most likely after they tighten them up or try to repair them, we'll be back where we are again next year at this same.
Are you looking at doing the square, the rectangle, or the circle?
I like the rectangle, but it's up to council if you wanted to. And this was one of the best prices I could find. Some of them are lower priced, but they charge more to ship. But we could look at that too. But they're going to be in this general range of pricing.
So is freight in addition to these prices?
Yeah,
Okay,
I believe it was $50 freight each.
50 each?
I'd have to double check. I just want to see what council wanted to do. Replacing 2 picnic tables is going to be around $1,500.
What do you have in your capital outlay?
Way less than that.
900, so I just checked.
And we're going to be using some of that for other.
For another agenda item.
Yeah.
Would this be something that have to be stored in the winter?
No, they're pretty durable.
It's a tough call. I know you worked on this, and you're kind of in a pickle right now at the time of the year. You know, when you look at one of them, let's say it runs you $800 or $750. That's 7 high school picnic tables. You know, you could almost replace them for 2 years. It's a catch-22. You know.
If we bought any, I wouldn't want to buy more than one just to see what kind of damage happened.
Well, did you want me to ask DPW or try to find a local group to refinish them, sand them, and
You know, you might ask board and bike guys. I mean, I'm sure sometimes they're out there practicing and doing some of that. They may step up to the plate.
I don't think the board and bike kids are doing that. They're
No.
over.
Well, I don't know what age groups
Yeah.
in the organization. I remember at one time it seemed like kind of a cross section, but I couldn't say.
Do we have any community service people coming in?
Well, I figured that, I mean, if we use community service people, we should probably, we'd have to get a belt sander and probably either
So
decide.
they have to be supervised.
Well, they have to,
High.
technically, they have to be supervised.
No, but I mean, especially,
I'm not sure they can use equipment like that,
Yeah.
though. I think they can paint it after it's sanded, right? I don't think you actually ask them to do that kind of.
I didn't ask about that, I asked the judge with regards to whether or not we could snow blow driveways and sidewalks for shut-ins and for, vacant properties that we were having difficulty with. And the judge said as long as somebody's watching them, they can use a snow blower, so if they can use a snow blower, they should be able to use a belt sander.
Well, if I can't find a volunteer group to do it, maybe we could have DPW do it. That's gonna be far less than even one of these tables.
Or you can keep
We're
in touch with
short-handed
chief.
with DPW too now,
Yeah.
one of us.
Well,
can-
yeah,
you
we're down
ask
right now.
Ed, and I'm, when he can get to it, he would, if he can.
Well, like Barb just pointed out, they're down one guy too, so, and
We can also see, like, at the end of the park season too, what the sponsorship opportunities brought in. We may look at using some of that money.
do you have
towards these
sponsors
things.
that wanna buy tables?
I haven't checked about that. That's a good idea.
'Cause we
Well,
noticed-
not only that, I don't, if that's the goal is to go to the more durable tables, I wouldn't put any more money into these ones.
Right. I think these make more functionality sense.
Because you
Well,
may
they
get to
do,
the
but they
point where
can't
you
move
can
them,
get
then
one
they
or two
won't
of them every
destroy
year.
them.
And the longevity of those is 3 times.
Right.
Well, but you might have for a while some of each.
That's okay though.
Right.
You want me to hold off on buying any? We'll hold off on this then and see what DPW can do.
For the concerts in the park, a lot of people,
Bring their
bring their
chairs.
own chairs.
Mhm. But we can also see what the sponsor, what we look at the end of the year when the sponsorships come through too. You said that was on the upswing, so.
Yeah, and then I know Sam Belkey had talked to me. She wanted to talk again about putting cameras in the park and
Mhm.
using some money for that.
I thought at one time we were going to chain those picnic tables to the pavilion. Did we? I can't remember.
Well, that's where
why.
they put them to bike off them, is in the, off the
So when we
pavilion.
chain them together in the pavilion, it actually makes it more attractive to ride bikes off of.
Not only that, when you have the concerts, people would be right on top of the performers then too. That wouldn't work
Yeah.
out if you chained them to that. So,
Yeah, but I'm just thinking it through, we could have DPW go and unlock them and move them on Wednesdays. It wouldn't take them about 15 minutes to move.
And to Chief's credit, the vandalism has been down. It's not as bad as it used to be. It's still there, but
And we had to take all the decorations off of the,
Right,
yeah.
the pavilion, the gazebo.
gazebo, because they were wrecking it.
okay, so
Okay.
our decision
Sounds
is
good.
we're just gonna wait.
No
But
problem.
good job, Harry, and I think these are a great idea. All right, next agenda item is meeting with Macomb County Road Commission. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none, Street Administrator Ballard, this is your agenda item.
Thank you, Madam President. Today, there was a group of us from here. We met with Bob Hoffner, and who was present was myself, Mary
Swayaki.
Swacky, thank you, from the township, Joe Adair, our village treasurer, Andy Wakeland from Biffles Webster, Ed Sartowski, our DPW supervisor, and Michelle Polis, the clerk. In the meeting that was held today here in the office, and it was about the East Main Street reconstruction project, was discussed, including program engineering, construction, and timelines. The special meeting will be called by the Armada Township Board to complete the participation agreement for the township portion of the project. And the township portion was provided by Andy Wakeland of Biffles Webster to be $44,496. Andy stated that the total street footage for the project is 5,910 linear feet, of which the township portion was measured and computed on 1,222 linear feet of the township property. It's important that the township complete the participation agreement as soon as possible, as it will then need to be presented to the road commission for a no-cost permit to work on the township portion of the road. And that was according to Mr. Hoffman. There will be no cost to that permit. The entire project is TIF funding, is $900,000 with a 20% margin for cost overrun, bringing the potential fund allowance to $1,080,000, and the village portion is 20% match, or between $180,000 and $216,000. Mr. Hoffner urges the village to proceed as promptly as possible, as unregistered projects are at risk of losing all or part of their funding. The engineering bids were reviewed at the top 3 most qualified bids of the 6 submitted bids were Rowe Engineering at $149,495, Spalding DeDecker at $119,900, and HRC at $123,980.41. The selected bid for the engineering of the project, was HRC, and they have talked to the road, they have walked the road project and are totally apprised of the project and its requirements. Mr. Hofstra also gave some insight on times. The first GI grade inspection will be at 6:27. He discussed some of the must-have elements of the project with GIFLs such as core samples and soil borings. Limitations for the PE cannot exceed $50,000, which it does not. And those prices that you saw up there, that was for preliminary engineering and construction engineering. But our HRC was the low bidder on the preliminary engineering portion of it. So that's why I would like to go with him.
That motion is,
Not the low one. Leave it in the middle,
Spalding
okay?
Decker is the lower, it appears.
No,
They're the lowest in the PE portion.
in the PE portion, 'cause we're not accepting those higher bids.
Okay.
Okay.
All of this stuff that he just ran down is in the stuff that was added for tonight's meeting, that agenda item, that includes, the participation agreement and the numbers from Andy and the map from Andy, so.
I have a quick question. The village portion, the 180 to 216, is that including the engineering? Is that total for the
That's-
entire project or just the road, the construction?
That's our total match of the project.
Engineering and construction then?
Correct.
Okay, and then what do we have to do to get it to be a registered project?
That's what Andy's working on right now.
How quickly are we gonna get it in, registered, Andy?
Well, there's an NDOT timeline that you basically have to follow, and the first deadline is 6/27, that's your first grade inspection. Once you get into the system, then there's like pretty much a monthly item that you're gonna do. So you wanna get it allotted before the end of October, which is the end of the
fiscal
fiscal year.
Okay,
As
so,
long as you get it, as long as you're in that process and you get it in their program funds, then you're fine.
so in order for it to be registered, we just have to get the grading done by 6/27 and then we're locked in, or is there more?
The grade inspection, it's not actually the grading, it's just
The grade inspection.
Yep,
Once we
they're
get
reviewing
that,
it
then
all.
we're locked in.
that and a couple of other steps.
Okay, what are the other
But
steps?
the 627 is your first step, that's the one that we have to,
Mhm.
and then there's a series of other items as they review it.
Mhm.
Then you have, a month later, you have another item get hit, and a month later, you have another item get hit.
So as long as we keep meeting those timelines, then we're considered still a registered project, because everyone's heard of that, they're making cutbacks, and I just wanna make sure that we're still
Yeah.
gonna make this work.
Yep, we're still on timeline to do it as long as we can hit that 627 and keep progressing. Which
So how close are we to getting that done?
As soon as we allow HRC to begin their project, then
The plan's
we'll
gonna
be
be
around.
submitted,
Mhm.
Yeah,
so that's where HRC comes in.
yep,
Okay, all right, so you'll make sure that we're there, right, Andy?
yep, I'll be.
Well,
Make sure we don't lose it, right, Andy?
Yeah,
All right.
that's my job.
I just got a question. Maybe I'm not understanding it right. I thought we had to pay the engineering 100%.
Our engineer, but not this new engineering that they,
Preliminary.
that's part of the project.
Well, that's 123,000, 124 for HRC. Who's paying that?
It's 20%, we're paying 20%, and DOT is
Okay.
paying the 80% of that. That's the
But
engineering.
eventually, we're gonna have to hire an engineer too, aren't we, for this?
We
Well,
have
that's,
Andy.
that's what that
That's
item
what
is to talk about, the one we added.
Okay.
Who is HRC?
Hubble, Roth, and Clark.
Hubble, Roth, and Clark? They're not the low bidder?
They are in the PE
They are in
portion,
the
which is what
PE
we're.
portion.
Okay, but why, they're not the overall low bidder, correct?
Correct.
Why would we not look at Spalding, who's the lowest bidder. I don't understand
Because
why.
Spalding DeDecker
Yeah.
was more in the PE than HRC. HRC was 42,870 and Spalding DeDecker was 48,700.
But overall, they're lower on the.
But project control engineering's 27.
And we aren't there yet. We're not at that point in this project yet where we're going to award the general engineering.
We'll be rebidding out the construction.
Correct,
engineering.
construction engineering, I'm sorry.
When the bids were put in, they bid on like 11 different items. I don't know if
The
that's the
PE
right
and
number.
CE portion.
Yeah, so what Andy is proposing is that you only award them like 4 items out of the 11, because they're the preliminary engineering.
But what is
So if you look at letters A, B, C, and I, if you add
That's all,
those.
that's what you're, but that's
That's what you're awarding.
that agenda item. that we had.
That's a future agenda, that's not
It
this
is.
one. So basically
we're
what
not
we're
talking
doing,
about that then?
right now, we're just talking
We will
about
be.
his
Think about
meeting.
it. Think about
Just
it.
the meeting.
Yeah.
Right. Are there any questions for Mr. Ballard regarding the meeting? Any questions? Hearing none, move on to the next agenda item. Next one is bulletin board for Memorial Park. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none. Park Commissioner Audi, this is your agenda item.
Oh, Sam wants one of these to put up band things and information on the park along with when it's preserved. Outdoor bulletin board. It would go on the gazebo on one of the posts. You'd hang it.
Is it lock and key?
It is lock and key and it's weatherproof and it matches the overall design of the gazebo.
That would be nice too when somebody does reserve that pavilion, to have a nice sign there. I think that'll make us look good.
But it doesn't get ripped off.
If it doesn't get
If it gets ripped off, then, what else can we do? You know?
Put Jimmy on the case.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, people gotta start, helping
You
us out.
can't
in
be
this
afraid, you
community.
can't be afraid to do something with fear.
Do you know what the shipping is on that?
I
just calculate
believe
shipping.
it was $21 based on weight.
But you did budget for this too.
Yeah, well, that
That's part of your capital outlay.
That was part of the capital outlay.
Are there any other questions?
Just out of curiosity, is the clear portion of it unbreakable?
It said it was durable plexiglass, but I don't. I'll double check that
At least
before we order.
plexiglass you can replace.
Place easier, yeah.
We can put up bulletproof glass if it breaks. That's pretty hard to break.
That might be costly.
And weight, it'd probably be heavy too, right?
Take down one.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Audi? There is a motion on there. Is there anyone that'd like to make the motion?
I'll authorize the purchase of a bulletin board to be placed in the Village Memorial Park for a cost not to exceed $169.99 plus shipping to be paid from the park's capital outlay fund.
Motion by Mr. Audi. Is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Ballard. Any other discussion? Mr. Wall, please.
Audie,
Yes.
Ballard,
Yes.
Stirrup,
Yes.
Conan,
Yes.
Wolak,
Yes.
Cooper.
Yes.
And Clark is absent.
Motion passes. Next agenda item is tax tribunal refund agreement. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Treasurer Adair, this is your agenda item.
It's what I explained at the last meeting. It's so that the county can buy out the tax tribunal, additional tax billings, and collect for them. Exactly the same thing we do with the delinquent tax roll. So these would be an authorization for them to collect anything that's outside of my already closed roll. And it doesn't cost the village anything. They would, of course, be able to collect any fees or penalties that would incur.
With late fees if we're late on doing so. Nice. Are there any questions for Treasurer Adair? Who is it that they think should sign that, the president or the treasurer?
You just need to authorize either or.
Treasurer?
Doesn't matter if that's what you want, that's fine. I authorize the other one, for the delinquent taxes.
Right.
I move to approve and authorize Joe Adair to sign the tax tribunal refund agreement from the Macomb County Treasurer's Office to allow the county to calculate and process in accordance with this agreement Michigan Tax Tribunal refunds and other adjustments to tax rolls in the possession of the county treasurer as provided by law.
Motion by Mr. Conan, is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Ballard. Joe, should he change that to say the village treasurer or leave your name on there?
I would add both to it, village treasurer Joe Adair.
Okay, is that okay
Okay,
with you?
that's fine.
Is that okay with you? Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next agenda item is direct the planning commission to assign village property addresses. Are there any public comments?
I'll give that to you.
Any public comments? Treasurer Adair, this is your agenda item.
Way back in the Stone Age, when I was still here, Detroit Edison used to do the address assignments. About 10, 12 years ago, I think, they no longer do that. So I checked with the assessor. I know we've assigned a couple of them here, and we've done it in the office and kind of scrambled to see if this, address seems right, or what's the difference between this address, and should we, try to fudge it into the middle, what should we do? So we don't actually have a process that we use here in the office. So it needs to be dedicated to someone who will be repeatedly dealing with this. If we were to get a subdivision or something, they'd have to be proposed. Those addresses that are in the subdivision would have to be proposed to someone anyway. I checked with the assessor. He says he does it for the township, but he does not do it for the village. So I think the most likely candidate to put this to would be someone who would be reviewing this kind of thing, and that would be Planning Commission. So,
Because it would be a new resident then, and they would have to see the new residents, but an existing residence would already have an address.
well, and you could be getting property splits, then, which was the case on Carl Street, where we had to come up with an address.
Right.
Because the property was split and you squeezed an address in between. So this would be something that the Planning Commission would review anyway, so I think they're the most likely choice to have the process done through.
Is this about the Ben's attention?
I did tell them, yep. I gave them a little heads up.
Did he have
Oh
anything
darn, I
in
wanted it
front
to
of
be a surprise.
After it was done,
Yeah. Guess what you got, Ben?
yeah.
Does the planning commission comfortable with it because they only meet monthly, and isn't this something you sometimes need to do quickly?
I don't know that we've ever had to do it quickly.
It's never been a rush type thing. It's usually something that you're working on. Even if somebody's putting in a house or dividing property, you're gonna have a heads up the property's being divided,
And
or
they
that a
have to
house
go to
is
the
going in.
planning
It's not
commission.
gonna be open as day.
I don't know how Edison ever did it. Where did they come up with these crazy numbers?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, that's why we have like 74100 on like 4 streets.
Yeah,
have a
well, my address is
74100
on
Crow.
another street.
Yeah.
Just the streets. different.
Yeah, mine does too.
I think we could do a little
Ironically,
better
it's a
job
former
than that.
clerk. We share the same street address.
Are there any other discussion? Everyone has a motion in front of them. Is there anyone that would like to make the motion?
Well, I'm on the planning commission, so I'll make it. Move to authorize the Armada Village Planning Commission as the designated entity to assign village property addresses as needed.
Motion by Mr. Conan, is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Ballard. Any other discussion?
Well, the one thing I'd say is if the planning commission has a problem with it, then they'll bounce it back to you.
You can add it to our agenda.
So make sure you point this out to Becky from and she can maybe put a copy of the motion in
Yeah.
Ben's box.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. The next agenda item is to award a bid for engineering services and approve a participation agreement for the East Main Street project. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none, Street Administrator Ballard, this is your agenda item.
Thank you, Madam President. As we went through on the report of the meeting, we have to award the bid for engineering services and approve participation agreement for the East Main Street project. You do have some exhibits here that were passed out. East Main Street project from Burke Street to the village limits. We have our work order suffix on, we have description, we have the estimated amount, and the cost share percent of the amount between the township and the village. It comes out to where the total cost of the project is between $900,000 and $1,080,000, less the total federal funds expected. So that basically the Township of Armada is going to be about $44,496, and the Village of Armada is going to be $171,504. That's how it breaks down. We do have here the participation agreement that's here. This is the standard one that the county uses, is that correct?
It is, I sent it, he sent me one, yeah, for a county, for, you know, Shelby Township. So when I looked at it, it obviously required more than I can do because I'm not a road engineer, so I sent it to Andy. Andy did it, he spoke with Jeff, so this is what he and Jeff came up with.
Okay.
So it has been looked at by the attorney to make sure that all aspects were covered.
Okay, so that being said, the bid for engineering services, as I said, I do want to go with Hubble, Roth and Clark. They were the cheapest on the preliminary engineering portion. This is all that we're awarding tonight. So therefore, I resolve to award the bid for engineering services of the preliminary engineering for East Main Street to Hubble, Roth and Clark Incorporated of 555 Hewlett Drive, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, at the price for sections A, B, C, and I.
No, yeah.
No.
Sorry, yep, you're right.
Okay.
Yep.
Reject the bids received from all other sections and authorize the street commissioner to rebid these sections at a later date and authorize the president and clerk to sign all documents required in conjunction with this approval.
Motion by Mr. Ballard, is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Wolock. Any other discussion?
Madam President, I still don't fully understand this, I apologize. We're only accepting 4 parts of this bid.
Correct.
How do we know that they're gonna honor those 4 prices? Sometimes when an engineer, they might eat a little bit on something if they know they're making it up on something else.
I have talked to them and they said that was not a problem. They understood that the preliminary engineering, as all of the engineers should have, is kind of a separate item when working through NDOT. So they know that A, B, C, and I are the preliminary engineering phases. And they know that obviously they will have a chance at the construction engineering, which is totally qualification based afterwards. So they were okay with being selected as A, B, C, and I.
Lyle, do we run any risk that the price may go up for the other portions of it because we're bidding it separately? I noticed here the most expensive one for planning, OMM, is actually the most cost-effective overall.
Well, wait a minute. With this, if you take a look at A, B, C, and I, okay, you also have to look at these engineering firms if you feel as though they're qualified to do this. Some of these firms have only been around for 7 years, and I did myself check on some of their help me out references, and of course I did this way back when. But anyway, that's why we decided that HRC, they being the least expensive of the upper 3, okay, who have done this type of work in the past, would qualify for this. I'm not saying that these other ones, Project Control Engineering, OMM, and Zimic Foster Engineering, I'm not saying they're not qualified. They just didn't fit into our profile that we needed.
Okay.
And not only that, if someone bids way too high, they kick theirs way up, you award it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that would be a risk factor.
And, you know, you're always going to run a risk of this happening. All right, you always run a risk. But what they're going to find out is that when it comes to the other type of engineering, we're going to be going for qualification based also, as well as price. All right. Now, this is the one we're paying for. All right. The other part,
You're still paying for this portion.
right, we're still paying for this portion, but the other portion is what comes out of the MDOT project. And that one there, you're correct?
It all comes out, because
It
you
all
have the
comes out,
PE and the
okay.
CE
You're confused.
portion, but you're
Oh, that's
only
okay,
paying
I'm sorry.
20%.
Lyle, if you believe they're qualified, that's fine, I just wanted to double check.
Who made the choice of HRC? Was that you?
Andy
You
and I
two?
did.
Not MDOT
Basically.
direction or
No,
anything?
no.
Correct, that was
MDOT did, or according to Andy, because I asked him to explain this to me when I was talking to Jeff about this statement today. And you told me that MDOT has a threshold of $50,000. If you're under 50, you can award. It doesn't have to be necessarily the lowest bidder, is that correct?
Correct, it doesn't have to be the lowest bidder, and it doesn't have to be totally qualification based, it can be kind of a combination of the two, as long as you're under that 50,000 threshold.
But don't we have a requirement of the lowest bidder?
That was
No,
on down
we don't.
before.
Why is there such a difference? I have two questions related to cost. The topography, we're not able to use our one from before,
We are, they just have to verify it.
They have to verify.
so that's why it's cheaper than what we paid before.
Correct.
Yes.
The second one, the final design. Why is there such a huge difference between firms 1, 2, and 3 and 4, 5, 6? I mean, you're talking
Yeah.
300 times?
I think that's where Lyle was thinking,
Three
the
times.
projects that have,
Exactly.
engineers that have done this
Yeah.
project
Done
several
this
times
project
over, and
before.
Yeah.
you felt more comfortable with those engineering firms that had a little higher price, but had better reference.
Any other questions? There is a motion on there that has already been made
Yeah, seconded.
and seconded. So it's gonna be a roll call vote.
Ballard,
Yes.
Woollett,
Yes.
Conan,
Yes.
Audie,
Yes.
Starrett,
No.
Cooper.
Yes. And then the township is going to be having a special meeting from what I believe on Wednesday to approve their participation agreement, and from then you guys can move forward, correct?
We have to approve the participation agreement.
We have to
In the
approve
next-
it again after they
Right
approve
now,
it?
right
No,
now, so
no.
we can.
So we can, because they're gonna be, Jeff would like council to have our eyes on it first, and then they'll take it to their special meeting, but he also wanted me to make sure that council's aware that if there are slight changes to it, that the motion is designed to allow for those, for like Sherry and I to look at it and make those changes if necessary. I mean, if they're huge, obviously, that's a whole other issue, but, the participation agreement needs to go forward, because if it doesn't, we don't wanna be at risk. So that's the biggest reason for it. The county does not have to sign the participation agreement. Bob Hoffner told us today that the permit issued will be the approval to do the road for the township. Because, it's not a township road, it's a county road. So really, it gets sticky. So that's the whole reason for the participation agreement. We want it in writing and signed by the township to verify that, everybody understands what costs are going to who and who's responsible for what.
So the township cost that you have here, approximately 45,000?
Yeah.
That's the total township has to budget, period? Because there was talks that needed to go up to 80,000?
But this is for the preliminary. Now, there's gonna be construction engineering also.
This is for the entire
I
project.
thought so.
Oh, that's for the entire
Entire
project.
project.
Oh, I'm
The
sorry, I
entire
misspoke.
project,
I'm
we just
sorry.
need to make sure they have approximately 45,000 in their budget,
Mhm.
Yep,
nothing more.
correct. Well, we did mention that it's always prudent to have some, maybe go up to 50,
Just
just
to
to
have,
make
just in
sure,
case.
it's always nicer to come back and not
Save
spend
you
all the
100.
money and, have that extra 5,000 allotted for, but that's what we are planning on them having to spend.
It also says on here that the village is gonna be billing the township, so the village has to pay the amount and then look for reimbursement from the township?
That, or we're gonna be invoicing them.
Before
That's
the
what
end.
it says.
Yeah,
Well, it says
I guess
that,
we can change that if you guys would.
it says funds provided by township shall be paid as invoiced by the village. So the village is paying for it and then we invoice the
We
township.
should invoice the township before we pay the bill.
Yeah.
You know, maybe when the invoice comes in, bill the township and,
In the typical county and community agreement, it actually says that they have to pay everything in full when they sign the agreement. But when Jeff and I talked, we're like, man, that's gonna be really hard to tell them.
yeah,
Well,
here, sign
here's
this,
the agreement,
sign this
give us
agreement and give us
$45,000.
$45,000.
It also says that the letter contradicts and saying that it's gonna be taking place over 2 different fiscal years. So that's in,
It will be.
but if they have to cut a check to us right now for their
They don't
amount.
have to,
You don't
that's why
have
we
to.
changed
Oh,
it to
okay.
the invoice,
All right,
that way
all
we
right.
can just invoice them for this year and then for next year, however we wanna
Okay.
agree to do it.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
Well, if they're budgeting the money and everything else, I think we should just get the money up front right now. For this year and for next year then, separate. Billing for a separate one for next year. I think we should have it at hand, you know, myself.
It does say we do need authorization from them for any additional expenditures beyond the limits of it. So we do have to make sure we have a express,
Well, that'd
we
be
let
the
them know
engineers
about
giving-
everything that's happening as it's happening.
Exactly.
Giving us the amounts and then, you know, through the engineers anyhow.
But we want them to be able to pull from 2 different fiscal years as well, Mark. I mean, that
Right.
would be right for
Yeah.
us to hold on to
Well,
their
take
money.
Take it the first year and bill them, and then the second year, bill them right away. So
Exactly.
That's how they invoice them.
get the money right up
Invoice
front.
it as it happens.
Any other discussion? There's a motion there. Is there someone that'd like to make the motion?
I'll make that motion, Madam President. Resolve to approve the participation agreement between the Village of Armada and Township of Armada for the East Main Street project, subject to approval by the Township Board, and authorize the President and Clerk to sign all documents required in conjunction with this approval.
Motion by Mr. Ballard. Is there a second?
Support?
Support by Mr. Audi. Any other discussion? Do we have a roll on this, please?
Baylor,
Yes.
Audi,
Yes.
Wolock,
Yes.
Conan,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Are there any upcoming agenda items that anyone would like to add to our next meeting? Any upcoming agenda items? Hearing none. Any other citizen comments? Any other citizen comments?
Just a reminder of the Memorial Day Parade.
Any other council comments?
We don't have the proposed villages on next meeting or the meeting after, but in the June meeting,
You have a what?
we'll have the proposed villages.
Any other council comments? Any community events besides Memorial Day Parade?
Concerts in the park start June 11th
With the choir,
with the choir.
the high school choir.
Yep.
Is it middle school too, or just high school
I think
choir?
it's just chorale. I
Chorale?
think, you know what, I don't know that, I guess, it's usually just the chorale, but,
Okay,
Last year was just correct.
yeah.
okay. Any other community events? Hearing none, we have no closed session tonight. The time is now 7:47. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Ballard. Is there a second? Support by Mr. Wolek. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Okay.